Shine Leadership Advantage podcast. We are here to explore how women leaders can leverage their personal growth to build healthy, happy, and high-performing cultures without the burnout. Today is our official launch episode where I'm talking to Debbie Prediger, founder of the Shine Circle, about why the conversation of happy, healthy, and high-performing leaders is important, and why this is showing up so strongly for women leaders right now. So before we get started, since this is our very first episode, we're calling episode 0, I'm going to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my background and how I arrived here to be the host of this engaging and enlightening podcast. Before I begin, I grew up in a very blue-collar home. I was the first to graduate high school in my immediate and extended family. I went to business school. Then I chose a concentration in accounting. I accepted an offer with a well-respected firm and officially became a CPA in 2004. I spent 21 years at that same firm, auditing financial statements of middle market businesses, nonprofit organizations, and public companies. And in those 2 decades, I led 5 to 7 teams at a time. I built training programs and mentorship programs and recruiting programs and was responsible for issuing hundreds of audited financial statements to clients. The thing that stood out the most to me during my time there was the impact that leadership had on the performance of these companies. This is something that I always noticed throughout my 21 years, but it was something that I just sort of put on the shelf. It wasn't what I was paid to do. It wasn't the purpose that I was told to go there to do, but it's just something that interested me. As I was digging through financial statements and looking at numbers, I started paying attention to when leadership was strong, what the impact was on the financials. And when cultures were healthy and positive and employees were engaged and happy to be there, what did the financial statements look like? And so I also spent time with those employees. I took them to lunch. I listened to their conversations in the break rooms. All of these things began to impact what I believed about leadership. And after years of putting all of this information on the shelf, I started to connect the dots that healthy, thriving cultures and companies actually came from healthy leaders. When employees thrived and leaders were clear about their purpose, then the businesses thrived. Eventually, this led me to researching effective leadership, happy employees, and proven impacts that these topics had on what my clients I knew wanted most, and that was committed, engaged, high-performing employees that stayed with the organization and decided to accomplish the mission that the organization had just as much as the owners wanted those missions. So after 2 decades, enter a global pandemic, right? Where all my previous leadership methods were tested. And I had to find a better way to get my teams to flourish. After putting to the test some of the different ideas that I had started researching, implementing some of the tools and the methods of leading that were different than what I was always taught, and seeing the benefit of those new ways, I decided to venture out on my own to focus on helping clients specifically with the challenges of leading. Robin Advisors was born out of a deep desire to impact work environments for the good and to show leaders and employees alike how to work from a place of joy instead of stress, frustration, and overwhelm. And so, since 2021, I have been leading an organization called Robin Advisors to help businesses do just that. So, how did I become connected with Debbie and eventually now host this podcast? Well, let me start with a little brief introduction of our guest today. I'm so unbelievably honored and proud to know Debbie Prediger. She is a transformational leader, a strategic mentor, an international bestseller, a speaker, or international bestselling author, a speaker, and a facilitator whose mission is to help women step into their power with clarity, confidence, and collaboration. Debbie is the founder of the Empowering You Network, the Be Extraordinary Women's Network, and most recently, the Shine Circle, which teaches women to self-love and heal and trust intuition and nurture their gifts and evolve into their fullest expression of leadership. Before her work in these groups, Debbie built and led successful IT businesses, spent years as a nurse, and still currently manages a successful cattle ranch in Canada. Because she has navigated the pressures and complexity that comes with building something from vision to reality, Debbie knows firsthand that leadership is not about doing more. It's about being. And we're going to get into that in just a few moments.
Oh my goodness. I just have to say thank you. It is humbling to hear somebody speak about you in these ways. And yet part of me was like, yep, but it's part of a remembering. So thank you for that introduction.
You're welcome. So for starters, for all of our new listeners, who all of our listeners are new this morning or today, give us, Debbie, your 2-minute story of your pivotal moment of how you began doing what you're doing now in creating the Shine Circle.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. The pivotal moment, actually, I believe that I need to speak about is the pivotal moment where I was creating the IT. I had the computer stores. I had all of the things that I was doing. And I thought, who the heck am I? And why does it even matter? Literally, like I'm doing all these things for everybody and I'm burning out and I'm on call and I'm answering everything. But is this what life is really about? And that took me down an entirely new journey. And the Shine Circle was born out of those years in between me asking that question and all of the other offers and creations that I have done, and realizing that at that moment, I actually created a framework that got me through that time that I now teach and share and mentor, because I believe that the 5 letters in Shine is everything you need in order to live from your highest potential, be who you were created to be, to fully shine your light brightly so that others can find you and you're no longer the best kept secret, especially women leaders. My goodness, we want people to be able to find you. And then always from an empowering perspective, a powered state. It really helped evolve what I do and how I teach when I realized and named the framework. And that happened over a year ago when I finally named that framework.
Yes. And I'm curious, you've worked with men and women in your groups in the past. Why women now?
Well, what happened to me is that I was serving heart-centered leaders, which was men and women that really came from the passion, that purpose-driven, that I have a message to share from a lived experience I went through. And when I switched to the Be Extraordinary Women's Network, it was because I literally felt like I was leaving some women out that I honored very deeply. Women like my aunts that had never had a paying job, but they were leaders of their communities. They were pillars inside of their families, inside of their communities. In everything that I stood for, it was things that I had watched them do and how they served from that beautiful heart-centeredness. And it wasn't about income, but it was about influence and it was about alignment. And so creating the Be Extraordinary Women's Network was born because I wanted to tell those women's stories. I wanted a platform for them to shine. And that started out a whole thing of a visibility challenge. What does it mean to shine your unique light? What does it look like when you're still kind of hiding or you don't feel like your story matters? And I think we'll just say that it all evolved from there. But really seeing that there's so many women that have unique, extraordinary stories, have been making either moves in as executives, as leaders in their communities, as thought leaders, as speakers, and the same value goes to that person that has volunteered their whole life at a local hospital or has gone on mission trips to serve and to help others. They're equally leaders. And that's really what I wanted the world to understand from my perspective.
So beautiful. Just seeing the leadership in every role that exists for women. So what do you consider the biggest or the real issue that women are facing today? Not the surface level issues, not the, maybe the symptoms that show up, but what is the real deeper issue that women face today?
Understanding how important their leadership is, their ability to share their voice and their message is people are praying for that type of leadership, that type of connection. But so many women think, well, somebody else can say it better than me, or I'll sit back and I will wait for that person to share that message that I truly believe in or that I've lived through. And so we often, as women, put somebody else up on a pedestal. And I'm opening up the door for all women to have a voice, to all women to recognize their story is permission for someone else. And in that, I think that it's important for us to recognize what I said before is such a pivotal thing. If you are looking for somebody else to lead you, you haven't fully understood that there is a leader inside of you. And so I need you to have that self-awareness, self-love, self-acceptance first of the leadership abilities you have so that they can be expanded and expressed out into the public. And that's when your stories start giving permission and creating a ripple effect.
It's so beautiful because what I notice in my coaching, so for the last year, I've really focused more on my one-on-one coaching. And as I begin working with executives and working with them on how to bring more joy into their work and their cultures, what I notice is sometimes we have these deeper issues as individuals that haven't been healed, addressed, we haven't been aware of them, that then causes me to spend more time dealing with those first. And then it takes us longer to get to the business and teams and leadership topics. But what I love about what you've created is that now I can actually bring in this membership to the Shine Circle because you've created a framework for women to go through the process of doing this individual, personal healing and self-awareness and love journey separate, so that I can actually get to my topics faster and they can see results faster because they're a part of a community that's dealing with those things that are innate in all of us that we always get to return back to when we're faced with challenges. So I love that about what you have created, because it's the core foundation of healthy human beings.
Yeah, it really is the Shine Leadership Advantage. And I love that's why we named this podcast, because it's the holistic approach, right? Before this, I would witness the most extraordinary women leading and often leading from doing and burnout and push. But what happens when you come back into this holistic approach, whether it's personally led or leadership led, both are the same, is that you start to witness that there is a growth opportunity that just continues to spiral upwards, instead of the old way where you got too much weight on your shoulders. You started to go down and down and down and felt more doubt, more overwhelm, more confusion, more frustration. And of course, you spoke about it earlier, in a workplace culture, definitely less joy, right? So as we hold this energy of the shine, which you talked about, the pieces of when somebody comes in and maybe haven't healed some past traumas, that's the H in shine. That's the healing. And that's evolving, right? We heal a piece of ourselves. Maybe it was that we tried to lead and somebody told us we weren't a good leader. Maybe it was a time where 2 or 3 really high achieving women got together and thought that it was going to be a collaboration, but it felt like it was like pulling above and trying to climb above somebody else. Those can really create wounds. But there has to be this trust where we can fully shine our unique light. And that happens when we're willing to go back and look at where those wounds showed up. And is that true? And have we expanded and grown and evolved past that in a place where we can release those old beliefs or even triggered reactions? So I'm always looking for the gap, but not from a place of lack or comparison or judgment, but from a place of opportunity to see, do they need self-awareness? Is there another self-love discovery method? Is there more healing? Their intuition would be more in tune and decisive if we could really help them heal a little bit more. Well, how can we heal when we have all these demands and burdens on us? We need to nourish our mind, body, and soul. How do we do that? One of the things that we do differently inside of the Shine Circle is we bring in mentors to teach from their own lived experiences and beliefs through the lens of the Shine framework, so that not only are we relatable to more people, you can hear yourself in one of those stories, in one of those lived experiences. And from that, you become more empowered and more sure that you're in the right place, doing the right work for the right reasons.
This sounds like a lifelong journey, like something that not something that you just learn once and then you're done with it. It sounds like something that you continuously get to experience.
And get to from a place of empowerment, right? Have you guys ever done something in the healing realm or in the I'm broken, I need to be fixed concept? And then you think, okay, I'm fixed, I'm good, I'm going to move on. And then, oh, that came up again, or it come from a different perspective or a different angle, and you judge yourself as wrong or a failure. And what I love about this is it's an evolution. It continues to help you lean into your leadership skills, both your self-led leadership and your business career leadership in a way that's empowering and growth orientated, that I really say it helps you come into mastery, into that place that you just naturally go, ooh, I need a little bit more N in my life today, right now. I'm going to intentionally bring in some more nourishment. And nurturing of my own mind, body, and soul. So what are we focusing on becomes an intention and a gift that we continue to give ourselves.
Yes, I am loving it. So as a woman who has experienced what others are also facing, the challenges of life, of leading, in your experience as an employee, as a nurse, as a business owner, as a caregiver, as a mother, as a wife, how do you see these challenges that we face throughout our journeys? How do you see them showing up with leaders today in the workplace specifically? So what are the symptoms that leaders can really look to say, this might be an indication that I need to, dig deeper into something like the SHINE framework?
Yeah, thanks for asking this question. So we know symptoms can show up in different ways for different people. It's your body is in dis-ease. Sometimes that comes through and manifests as an actual disease, and sometimes it's just that overwhelm, that self-doubt, worry, frustration cycle that we can loop through. But here's a couple really good examples of what I would see. Either a leader is leading from fear and they become very controlling, like they micromanage everything, which then makes their exhaustion and their overwhelm and frustration even more seen and heard and felt. Or they can't make a decision no matter what. What happened? I used to be able to make decisions, and now I'm sitting here swirling between what if. There might even be a place where burnout shows up as depression and I can't get out of bed, or I'm always sick. My body's autoimmune system can't help me anymore. I'm always sick. It also might be that they're very judging of themselves and others. They start to really talk about almost gossipy, even for women that weren't gossipy. They can become judgmental in a way that starts to point fingers at other people's ways of doing things. These are all leadership qualities that none of us desire to have, and I definitely don't want them running our lives or our businesses. And so when I'm looking at for the gap, the opportunity, I always use emotions to what's showing up, right? So if overwhelm or confusion is running the emotional bus, what are you really wanting? I'm wanting clarity and freedom, right? Clarity feels peaceful and free and choice. So what are we looking at? Why is there confusion showing up? What is it keeping you safe from? What is it a symptom of? So when I first started this journey, before I named the SHINE circle or the SHINE framework, I was taking people through opportunities to see the gap and to listen to your inner wisdom and from your highest potential and your highest self. So really what the SHINE framework does is helps you elevate your energy, elevate your emotions, elevate your vibration and frequency so that you're not down in the muck trying to figure it out from chaos and lack and confusion and frustration and disappointment. But what emotion do you want? You named it earlier, joy. For me, the three emotions that I needed in my life, desired, intentionally was choosing every moment of every day, was joy, love, and peace. Sometimes all three at once. And sometimes at a different moment of a different day, I needed more peace than I did love, in my opinion. But I had to intentionally choose those so that I could understand, what am I feeling and what do I desire to feel and how do I get back there? That's really, how do I get back to that place?
Yes. And I'm seeing in the comments, confusion as a symptom. I have been symptomatic for quite some time, now opening up to clarity. So good. So good. Another thing that I noticed in with my clients and organizations that I work with is that sometimes when leaders don't trust themselves, it slows down the decision making in the entire team. And it can in the entire organization, depending on the role, right? Because one of the principles in your framework is to trust the intuition, right? The eye and shine is intuition. And a lot of times we let other opinions and ideas and positions influence our decision making, which is great. And what about that good old intuition? So
Yep.
I love that specific part of the Shine framework for that particular reason, because it allows you to make decisions quicker, and then you start seeing it throughout your team as well.
Yeah, Jennifer, it's so fascinating that I is the middle letter. So it is the balance. When we are in homeostasis, when everything is running perfectly and flowing through us, our intuition is spot on. We can trust it. We know it. We can anchor our truth on it. We don't have to have all of the data to prove something. We're just like, I know what I know, what I know. That's the place that I want everybody, every leader, every woman to stand in. But guess what can move her out of a heightened intuition? Fear, overwhelm, frustration, confusion, all of the things in which we talked about in the H. So if we're needing some more healing, it's going to point right over there. And when we're healed, when we can fully see what our bodies are trying to tell us, where is this coming from? We come back into our I being fully trustable. Tell me something, Jennifer. When you are unable to trust yourself or your team, do you believe that there's healing that needs to happen either in yourself or in your relationship with your team?
Absolutely.
So healing is each one of these letters is a workshop of its own. It's a book of its own, because that's how deep this can go. But when you understand how, when it works together, it helps us be better leaders, better people, better humans, better wives, better everything. And it's not because we're doing more. It's because we're being that we already are. The light from within. That's the truth.
So good. I love what Therese has said in the comment. She says, oh, did I lose it? Every story matters. And yes, Debbie, I am learning to trust the leader in me. Your example is amazing. So Therese is a part of your community.
Yes, she is.
Can you share with us maybe an example similar to Therese of a member who has achieved these kinds of things and this kind of shift that you're talking about? Maybe they were in this burnout, or were they were in this place of not trusting themselves, and it was showing up in the results of their team. Or maybe it's in their life personally. Can you give us an example of one of those shifts?
Yeah, I could give you many, many examples, but the one that's coming to me right now, it was really interesting because I have a Shine Circle for members. And I have a Shine Mentor program where the mentors come in and they start sharing their own technique through the lens of Shine. I told you about that earlier. Well, one of the mentors, while we were creating the Shine Framework course, which is free for everybody, while we were creating that, we were going through each one of these letters, going deeper into what is it about, but also what would it look like if your client was the one in front of you. What would S, self-love, self-discovery, self-awareness look like? What would H look like? And this particular mentor got to H, and she's an empowerment coach. She was definitely in her mastery level. And she got to H and realized how much more healing opportunities she had. And not only did she become a better Shine mentor, because there was a truth, there was a knowing, there was an awareness without judgment or prosecution. And she became a better leader within her own framework. And then she could connect those dots between her framework and the Shine framework. And that's what I mean about through the lens. I am never telling somebody to take their framework, their philosophy, their offers, and throw them away and come in and be certified with mine. Because I believe that the Shine framework is for everyone. And it's always going to connect those things and amplify your mission and message even more. And that's what happened to her personally, and then rippled out into her own audience, that they could relate to her framework even more because it was coming through a lens of these letters that are so easily describable, and people can feel each one of these letters inside of Shine.
Yes, it's so foundational to all other frameworks, right? I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I have just really enjoyed this time together, and I thank you for taking the time to explain to us the depth at which you have thought about and created and experienced and played with this idea of helping women shine in leadership, specifically in their own personal leadership, and now in the workplace. And so I would love for you to share, as we're wrapping up, what is one shift that you would recommend to the listeners if they're feeling this kind of stuck, overwhelmed feeling in their leadership, and they feel like they're maybe in this push harder, do more cycle, and they're still getting less? Is there one thing that you would invite them into to start their process of shifting out of that?
Yeah, I think that it's really simple, and we often overcomplicate something, but come back to what brings you joy. So take note of what truly brings you joy, not what somebody tells you should bring you joy, but what lights up your heart and soul. And that is the self-awareness, self-discovery. Go back as if you were a brand new person. Look at yourself like you look at a newborn child or your 6-year-old granddaughter, for me, and come in with awe and wonder and curiosity about yourself. And when you do that, and you start recognizing what brings you joy and what takes away your energy, that's also part of it. You start making intentional decisions about what you're no longer doing and how you are actually being. How do you amplify that joy from within? And for one thing that I would recommend for a lot of women is stop putting yourself in buckets. You're not an executive coach and a mother and a friend. You are all of those things holistically. So don't put your joy in buckets. Bundle them instead. Bundle your joy together so that you are amplifying and multiplying what brings you joy versus only allowing yourself joy in certain places with certain people. Does that make sense, Jennifer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, is there anything before we wrap up that we haven't talked about that you would love for the listeners to know?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would love to share from my perspective why I wanted you to be the host of the Shine Leadership Advantage podcast. I have always known that the Shine framework is for personal leadership and business, career, corporation leadership. But you came to me and could easily connect those dots in a way that come from a different perspective than others were seeing it. And what that helped me decide or use my intuition for was that it is time. It is time to connect these dots, to connect the pathway, to connect whether you're in Shine Circle as a member, fully leaning into your own light, or you are a mentor in my program and you want to learn more about your offer, your creation, your voice, your message, or you are a corporation that is looking for foundational people that can speak on this, can teach this, can do workshops on it. You're the connection between those, you're the bridge between all of that. And it really felt good for me to have somebody not only understand when you started asking these questions, but you actually seen it before I did, that it was time and that it was needed. And that's the lens, that's the different lived experience lens that brings in so much value. And I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you for being this host.
Thank you so much for what you do. You make my job easier because now I can focus on what I love and the parts of what I love. And I can say, there's this circle over here that can help you in these other ways. Right? So thank you for what you do, for showing up when it's hard and loving the messy middle in the evolution of women leaders, because it does get messy. And if this conversation resonated on any personal level for you, the Shine Circle is a beautiful space for women to deepen this kind of inner growth and support. If you know Debbie, you know that she is all about collaboration and community and support. And so she can't help but ooze those things when you get into her circle. And if you're a leader and you want to create this kind of shift inside your team or your organization, that's exactly the work that I do with my coaching. So we, as you can see with the banner, if you comment leader, is it leaders or leadership? Here we go. In the comments, we will send you a personal message on how you can be a part. But the bottom line is that thriving cultures don't start with better perks or policies. They start with leaders who are willing to heal, grow, and lead from a place of wholeness and joy, as Debbie spoke of. That is the Shine Leadership Advantage. So thank you for joining us today. We are so grateful for each other, for you, and for all of the communities out there that will be shining in 2026.